I honestly didn't think that I would have enough albums to make a video about this month, but here we are. I actively went out of my way this month to find some interesting albums that I wanted to recommend to people, smaller albums that a lot of people might have looked over, as well as just general albums I've really enjoyed. So, funnily enough, this might be the video with the most albums in it to date, because I figured out how to sort RYM charts by month. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this month's video, and I hope that you can find something interesting to listen to from it. I'll keep this intro short so that we can jump straight into our first album of the month. Opening the video, we've got a very small album that I stumbled across on RYM, that turns out to be also made by someone many of my friends know. Lynx Desmond's debut album, I've Got to Be Brave, is a really fun lo-fi bedroom project that shows a lot of potential for Desmond. It's an album that at many times I could compare to Weather Day's debut record Come In and their sound in general. The biggest difference between the two really is the more electronic focus this record takes. It wears that bit pop genre tag on its sleeve and I love it honestly. I can tell that there's also a definite Nouns influence here. There are some amazing tracks here that showcase the talent of Desmond, like My Little Cat-Faced Friend, which has some amazing guitars, especially near the end. I can't get enough of that outro. Then there are plenty of examples of Desmond being able to create something immensely catchy and memorable with the tracks Autumn Comfort Song and Pack Your Bags. And then the excellent and satisfying closer Autumn Parting Song, which showcases Desmond's ability to create a more long-form track with multiple parts and pulls it off really well. It's a closer that reminds me very much of Crash Tent's Dummy by Pet Shimmers. It's incredibly satisfying, and it's only made better with the album that comes before it. Now, this isn't to say this album is perfect, because it isn't. I would say that the mixing is dodgy in places, especially when the vocals are almost completely drowned out, and there are some weaker, slower songs on here. But this is a really strong debut, and a fun one too, a strong 8 out of 10, that I highly recommend. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a massive hip-hop head, and I think most people as well wouldn't consider me a massive hip-hop head. But I like the genre and can appreciate a lot of its releases, but I don't usually attempt to seek out releases under the label. I saw that Cheat Codes had received immense praise practically overnight, as I had heard nothing about this album up until now, so I went and listened to it, and I can sure see why it's garnered so much love. Everything about this record is so smooth. The production, the beats, the flow, and the lyrics all come together to make something just so chill and so fun that I can't really see anyone being able to dislike this. Even if you aren't a hip-hop fan, you have to appreciate the talent that was put into this. With incredible features and their incredible writing, Cheat Codes is an incredibly strong 8 out of 10 that I would recommend to really anyone who seems even slightly intrigued. Go listen to it, even if you aren't that big of a hip-hop fan. You will get something out of it, I promise. I was a really big fan of Donnelly's debut album, Beware of the Dogs. I didn't actually know that this was releasing until I saw it on my new releases tab on Spotify, so I became very excited to listen to it. If you like Beware of the Dogs, you'll probably like this too. It's really some nice indie folk with a bit of cheek and a lot of sentiment, much like her debut. I don't really have much more to say on it other than that. It's fun, it's cheeky, this part's unscripted, but it's more of the same. If you like the previous, you'll like this. 7 out of 10. This is a very short album, only around 19 minutes, so depends if you want to call that an album or not, but it's incredibly sweet either way. In short, That wasn't intentional, I promise. It's a love album with very sweet lyrics and a dreamy atmosphere. The production style is one I've always been very fond of. It's atmospheric and bloopy. It feels like a dream, especially coupled with the lyrics. If you're looking for an album about falling in love with a glitchy, dreamy, ambient atmosphere, then definitely give this album a listen. I really want to feel the touch of another human being. 8 out of 10. Bedroom pop. I fucking love bedroom pop. And hypnagogic pop. I still don't actually know what that word means, but I like how it sounds. Triathalon is another artist I had never heard of before this album, and it's another album I just stumbled upon when scrolling through RAM. I'm pretty sure I found it right next to Link Desmond's albums too. The genre tags obviously drew me in, and so I listened to it. And this is another really chill and another really well produced album. It's something really nice to sit back to and just soak in. It isn't something I return to extremely often, mainly due to it feeling a little samey by the end, but there are still some major highlights that I want to point out. Tracks like the opener, Dreams, is a stellar track that pulls you in immediately, and the following track, Time, is a great, follow-up. Die is a highlight mainly for its dreamy outro, and Infinity Mirror is a track that changes things up quite a bit and gives the album a more drum and bass feel, with its more intense beats and auto-tuned vocals. This is a good album. There isn't really much more I can say about it. If you want something chill, check it out. It's a solid 8, for sure. This is gonna be a weird one. Psychedelic prog folk. Yeah. I had never heard of Derick Penrod up until this point, but it seems he's been a pretty prolific musician since 2017, and possibly prior to that, but I'm not sure. The genre tags drew me in instantly. I fucking love a good drone piece, and this didn't disappoint. The album is relatively short track-wise, being only 4 songs in length, but 2 of those songs are above the 10-minute mark, while the other 2 are only around 4 minutes. It's quite obvious which tracks are meant to be the main focus here, and they do a very good job at taking center stage. The opener, The Great Reconvening, which is 15 minutes in length, is a very slow psychedelic drone piece that feels like a proper journey. It reminds me of quite a bit of older Pink Floyd, especially Sourceful of Secrets. It's a slow psychedelic jam, while the other track 3, entitled We've All Got Boltzmann Brains, is 12 minutes in length, and is a much more drone heavy piece. This track reminded me a lot of some of Natural Snow Building's best pieces, and I absolutely adore it. It just builds and builds with these ever so slight changes that are quite blink and you'll miss them. But, as an experience, it's very much a track you lie down and just soak in as it slowly envelops you. My only real gripe with the track is I wish it were longer, but I do also really like the transition it has into the closing track, which is the only track on the album to have vocals. I highly recommend this to anyone who's looking for a good bite-sized piece of drone or psych in general, but this definitely is not an album for everyone. I think the majority of the population would enjoy the previous album I spoke about much more than this one, so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I like dogs, and I also like Nouns. While of Unsigned Mind had been on my radar for a little bit, but I was a bit late when coming to listening. I went into it with expectations, and they were definitely met, to an extent at least. I really like Nouns' sound from what I had heard prior, that mainly being their debut album, but I also did listen to a bit of Still. While of Unsound Mind is definitely a continuation of that sound, but there's a stark evolution shown here as well. I mean, if you just look at the track list and the lengths of these songs, you should already be able to see that. Nouns' debut album was under 30 minutes, while this album has a song that breaches 10 minutes. Nouns takes their noisy and chaotic post-hardcore and shift from fast and incredibly in-your-face songs to longer, more felt-out tracks. I think the main song to talk about here is the nearly 11-minute track Lemurian Hyperstition. Mainly because it seems to be something Nouns hasn't really done before. It is a much slower song with an elongated intro, but once it kicks into gear, it still feels very much like a Nouns track. The shouty, near indistinguishable vocals, mixed with the noisy and unpolished instrumentation, it all still feels very Nouns. The track feels like one stretched out idea, and I really like it. One long, noisy jam that just keeps going. I feel like overall they did a really good job with this album, and it also surprised me to see Paranau? Yeah, we're gonna go with that, appear as a feature on this record. Check it out if you like noisy, shouty music. And dogs. 8 out of 10. Some people just have one of those voices that are utterly spellbinding, and some of those people are able to use that voice to craft beautiful songs with their equally spellbinding writing. Julia Jacklin is one of those people. I really enjoyed her previous record, Crushing, when I first heard it back in 2019. It had a really cozy and comfortable feeling to it. It's quite clear, though, that Jacklin wanted to go in a different direction with Pre-Pleasure. You can tell from the opening track, Lydia Wears a Cross, that this album is going to feel less cozy and comfortable. That drum machine that's made extremely apparent at the beginning, and Jacklin's voice seemingly more reserved. And then as the chorus kicks in, we hear it rise ever so slightly, and this continues throughout the rest of the song. It's all a slight rise until the climactic ending with these noisy guitars. It sets the tone perfectly as Pre-Pleasure, while similar to her previous work, is taking a more blunt and upfront approach musically and lyrically, and I think her voice really suits it. The best example of this that can be seen on the record is in the chorus of the second track, Love, Try Not to Let Go, where the guitars begin to soar and she sings the title of the track. It's gorgeous and an immense highlight of the album, and the entire month as a whole, really. Gorgeous album with gorgeous writings. 9 out of 10. And side note, I really like the album cover. It's surprisingly fitting. Before this released, I knew that I would love this album, but I didn't expect for it to impact me in the way that it did. From the first 2 singles that dropped, I knew this could be an Album of the Year contender. And it was, and still is. Teen Suicide returned after 4 or so years of silence with an album full of some of Sam Rae's best writing to date. It features the staples of any good lo-fi bedroom pop record, while also feeling much more mature than its contemporaries. Honeybee Table is an album that deals with topics such as loss and grief in a fascinating way, and I adore the atmosphere it builds around itself. Songs like Groceries and I Will Always Be in Love with You give off a comforting vibe, but looking deeper in, you realize that not all is happy, and that all comes to realize on the centerpiece track and lead single, Coyote 2015 to 2021. I go much more in depth about all of this in my review, which will be linked below, as should be all the other reviews, all the other albums that I have reviewed on this list, because I haven't reviewed all of them, will be linked below as well. Kitty said that this album should have 4,000 word essays written about it, so that's what I went and did. Suck it. Don't actually. I love you. You've made such a good album. 10 out of 10. And that brings us to the end of the first part of the video, the main part of the video. those were all the albums that I listened to this month and enjoyed. There were other albums that I listened to this month and didn't enjoy, but we won't talk about those. But of course, this month also gave us plenty of singles, and really, really good ones. So we're going to be looking to those as well. Now, of course, this part will be shorter than the previous, or at least it should be, because I'm only talking about individual songs, not full records, but we'll see. I do tend to talk a lot. But I hope that, once again, you find something here that intrigues you and you want to listen to. And with that out of the way, let's get into the singles portion of the video. Opening this portion of the video, we have the Arctic Monkeys' lead single for their upcoming record entitled The Car. The car being the record, not the song. The song is There'd Better Be a Mirrorball. They seem to be fully embracing the style of music they went for on Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, as this song once again sounds incredibly smooth and baroque. The biggest difference here though is that this song is just so much more interesting than Tranquility Base ever was. The biggest issue with that album as a whole was how uninteresting it felt, while this track alone manages to hold my attention for its entire length, even with its simplicity. It shows that the band have managed to perfect the style of music they've been going for, and it leaves me incredibly excited for the upcoming album. Joji has seemingly been unstoppable over the past 4 or so years with the music he's been releasing. He went from being an internet meme to being one of the biggest artists on the planet, and it's all incredibly well deserved. From his debut album with songs like Slow Dancing in the Dark to Run from Nectar, he's been absolutely killing it and topping charts, and once again, he's doing it here. And yes, I am referring to the most recent single, Yukon, because even this track manages to make me feel the same way the aforementioned songs and Glimpse of Us do. Joji's upcoming album is going to be something truly special, I can tell, and I am incredibly excited to see what happens. I had never listened to Alvvays until now. Yes, I'm gonna pronounce it how it's spelled. And holy shit, I wish I'd done it sooner, because this track is phenomenal. It didn't help that I felt personally attacked in the opening fucking lines, but it's all good. This is such a fun song. It's noisy indie rock that's insatiably catchy. It's stunning and the best single that I have heard all month. I don't think anyone was really expecting to hear new Magdalena Bay material so soon, but here we are. This is definitely a much more toned back track compared to the stuff from their debut record, Mercurial World, but I think it really works. This slow indie pop sound sounds gorgeous coming from the group, but if I'm being honest, I think they could do literally anything and it would sound gorgeous. They are production geniuses. They just speak pop music. And that brings us to the end of another month, another video. Probably should have said that the other way around. Doesn't matter. I never script these outro parts. That's why I'm fumbling. But I hope you enjoyed watching this video. A little different than the previous ones, mainly because I actually went digging for records and singles, mainly records, that released this month. So I did actually have quite a bit of stuff to go through. And it was fun for me, listening to new stuff that I would not have listened to otherwise. And to have things put so high on my end of year list, things that you might see some of these appear in the end of year list that I'll do at the end of the year, which I would never have heard if I hadn't went digging. So it's been a nice experience for me, and hopefully you, because hopefully something has caught your eye and you've gone and listened to it. And I hope you have, because that's why I make these videos. As I say with every single other one, the reason I make these videos is because I want to share more music with other people. So with that, I'll hopefully see you next month. This, or, well, at the end of this month, really, because it's September now. And more than likely, I will see you, because I'll probably do the same thing here. I'll find albums myself and do stuff. So, this won't be the last you'll see from me, hopefully, this month. I do have a plan. I have a planned other video that might take some time, but I do want to get it out. I don't know how long it'll take though, but we'll see. But other than that, there are some other videos as well that just haven't been finished. Either way, this isn't the last you'll see of me, I promise. Well, maybe want me gone. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you got something good out of it. And if you could, if you want to, you can subscribe, you can like, and you can also donate to my Ko-fi, coffee, whatever, in the description, because this video will probably not make anything at all, because copyright claims. And also, check out the reviews that I have written for the albums down below. They should be in the description. I haven't written a review for everything on this list, that's usual, but the ones I have will be linked down below, especially the teen suicide review. I would very much like if you went and read that one, because that took a while. And I'm very glad it's done. And yes, it is actually 4,000 words. It's about 4,100 and something, I've checked. So, goodbye.